Okay, welcome to today's lesson. Today's lesson is about advanced phrasal verbs. I've taken all of these phrasal verbs from a book by Cambridge University Press by Michael McCarthy and Felicity O'Dell. It's an excellent book, so please go and get it. I'm going to try and make some exercises for these phrasal verbs very soon as well, and I'll be selling that on my website, so you can look forward to that in the next few months. But if you're interested in watching some TV shows that have lots of these phrasal verbs, please have a look at my Mindhunter lessons, because I have 5 videos about Mindhunter, and I have an ebook which you can buy which has lots of exercises for these phrasal verbs. Okay, so these are the last 5 chapters of the book, and I don't know a better book than this one for learning phrasal verbs. There are actually, unfortunately, there are very few good books around for practicing phrasal verbs, and I think that's why I'd like to make some exercises, because there is a gap in the market there. I think even the dictionaries, they don't do a fantastic job of listing all of the phrasal verbs. Quite often you'll find that some phrasal verbs just aren't there, even though they're very well known and they're very often used. And please remember as well that every year you hear new phrasal verbs. I certainly do among my friends, and some of these phrasal verbs remain, but some of these phrasal verbs you hear one year and you never hear again. Now all of these are good ones because they've been used for many years. So the first one's easy. Come in and go out would be the opposite of come in. There's a nice easy one for you to start with. None of the others are going to be as easy as that, unfortunately. But if you come in a room, you enter, and if you go out of a room, you exit. Simple as that. However, if you come at someone, and you can see that chapter 56 was phrasal verbs with come, and I have another video about phrasal verbs with come, so you can try that lesson as well if you want some more. But if you come at someone, then you attack them in some kind of way. Usually it means physically attack, not metaphorically attack. So if you come at someone, you could come at someone with a knife, you could come at someone with a weapon, and it means that you are attacking them. And 2 other phrasal verbs which mean exactly the same thing are run at someone and go for someone. If you say the burglar went for me, it means he attacked you in some kind of way, maybe with a stick or a weapon, or maybe with his fists. He can go for you with his fists as well. It doesn't have to be a weapon, it could be his hands. Go for can actually be used metaphorically. Come at and run at are usually physical, but you could say the critics went for her after her speech, and that would mean that the critics attacked her, but in a metaphorical sense, not in a physical sense. Now, if you come at a problem, it means you approach the problem from a certain angle, from a certain perspective. So I think in mathematics, I do a lot of maths with my daughter at the moment because she's got a test coming up, and I tell her that always try and think of at least 2 ways to come at the problem. And I mean, think of at least 2 directions from which you can approach the problem, because we all know that mathematics is something that can be done in hundreds of different ways and still you get to the same answer. And I think that it's important to find more than one way to come at a problem, because then you can check that your answer is correct. So yeah, there's a little bit of advice for everyone. Always find a few different ways to come at a problem. Okay, if something comes down to you through the generations, or if an object is passed down the members of your family, passed down from your great-grandfather to your grandfather to your dad, that means that this is a family heirloom. This is an object which belongs to the family, which the generations constantly pass down so that the next generation can inherit that heirloom. They can come into well, they can inherit their fortune, they can come into their fortune, if it is a fortune, and it means that the older generations can pass down, they can pass on, would be something similar. They can pass down whatever object or riches it is that they'd like to keep in the family. But yeah, pass on would be quite similar to pass down, but pass on is normally pass on this message, or pass on something physical, meaning transmit. Yeah, you can very often see it with pass on a message for me. But yeah, pass down for items which are inherited. And if you come into a lot of money, that means you inherit a lot of money. And it's normally used with money, this one. Come into a lot of money or come into a fortune. It's not normally used with individual objects, like when something is passed down. You normally just say he came into a great deal of money when someone in his family died, perhaps a great uncle or great aunt. Okay, come into has a second meaning, and it means play a part, have an influence, have something to do with. So if I say, maybe your football team are playing tomorrow, and you might say, oh, somebody might say, good luck, I hope your team wins, and you might say, luck won't come into it, meaning luck will have nothing to do with it. Our team is so skillful that it will be skill that wins the match. Luck won't come into it. And so quite often we say this, such and such won't come into it, and it means it will have nothing to do with it. It will play no part in it. So somebody, let me give you one more example. Somebody might say, the only reason that you're successful with the opposite sex is because you have a lot of money. And you might say, hey, my money doesn't come into it. It means my money has got nothing to do with it. It plays no part in it. Okay, I hope that's clear. That's another way of using come into. Come in for is very often used with criticism. You often say the minister came in for criticism when he decided to increase taxes. Yeah, and it means he got a lot of criticism. He could expect a lot of criticism. So this one's really quite common, and I think you should remember it with be in for and let oneself in for. If I say this, you will be in for some bad marks if you don't start working hard, it means you can expect some bad marks. But I could even say you will come in for some bad marks. It's quite rare, that one. It's not very common, but it's like expect, anticipate, very similar to be in for and let oneself in for. When you say you don't know what you've let yourself in for, meaning you don't know what an awful or difficult situation you have put yourself into. Okay, next one, to come up against, to come across, meaning to stumble on, to happen on. It's not quite the same as bump into, but I've put it there to remind you that you bump into people, but you come across objects. You come by an old gold watch. You stumble on somebody's passport. You happen on a gold ring in the street. So these ones are all objects, but bump into for people, please. If you accidentally meet someone on the street, then you bump into them, or you run into them. But stumble on, happen upon, come across, come by, they all mean find an object accidentally. But remember that come across does have a second meaning with come across as. If you come across as someone, that means you seem to be a certain type of person. This is very common. You can say, I went to, or I saw my favourite singer live in concert, and unfortunately he came across as rather arrogant. Maybe he made a few jokes and you thought that they were quite arrogant, the jokes that he made. So you can say that somebody comes across as, and then use a personality adjective, usually. It can be used in all sorts of different situations. You can say, I really liked that student. He came across as a very modest guy, but very intelligent guy. You're always using personality. So this one for personality, this one went for when you find objects accidentally, and bump into or run into when you meet people accidentally. Now you can come up against difficulties, problems. It's got to collocate with something difficult, and that's why I've put face difficulties, because to come up against difficulties means to face difficulties. And you can also say to run up against difficulties, to go up against something difficult to sort out. So very good one there, but it's got to collocate with something hard, something difficult, something that is a struggle. So you might say we came up against several obstacles when we tried to walk to the top of the mountain, something like that. But it can be used in business as well. We came up against all sorts of problems when we tried to look for some funding for the project. The funding all dried up. Okay, come out with is when you say something surprising or odd, and it's got to be surprising or odd, this one. So you normally come out with a strange remark or something like that. You know, you might say, I was in the meeting yesterday and the boss came out with a very strange idea. And it means he mentioned a very strange idea. Come up with is also possible in that example, so perhaps that's not a great example because we say come up with for ideas, and I don't think I'd even put come up with here because it's too easy. But come up with an idea, come up with a suggestion. Come out with is different from come up with, because come up with just means think up. Come out with means say something. It's always when something is said, and it's always surprising or odd. So maybe let's forget idea. He came out with an idiotic remark in the meeting. You couldn't say came up with there. You don't come up with a remark. You come out with a remark. So remark works very well, but any other speaking kind of noun will work very well there because it's a spoken thing. It's not a thinking thing like come up with. Okay, come up to your high standards. When something meets your high standards, it comes up to your high standards. It reaches your high standards. So come up to high standards, but don't forget something lives up to your expectations. So live up to expectations, come up to high standards. They collocate differently, but they're very similar, and they both have up to in there. Okay, if you don't believe what somebody says, you can say, come off it, come on, I don't believe that, come off it, come on. They're very common, meaning you are incredulous, you don't believe what that person has said. And the last three here, you should definitely all know already, and if you don't, make sure you learn them because they're very common. When some new restrictions are placed in a certain area of law, that means the authorities are clamping down on that area of law. They're coming down hard on drug dealers. They're cracking down on street crime. They're clamping down on prostitution. Could be anything, but it means they're getting stricter with that particular area of law. Okay, chapter 57 is our all get phrasal verbs. If you say, what did you get up to at the weekend, it just means what did you do at the weekend, okay? And that's very common. I very often ask students, what have you been up to? Or what did you get up to at the weekend? And it means what did you do? But there is a sense of naughtiness with this, especially if you use it for children. If you say, what are the children getting up to upstairs? That sounds like what are they doing? What naughty activity are they up to? I think for the Russian students, it's a little bit like что ты творишь? Yeah, что ты творишь? What kind of naughtiness are you creating up there? The next one, get your act together, and it's got to have your in there. I think I've missed that, as I often do. Get your act together. It means pull yourself together. Be a man, or a woman, but it can be used for both sexes, certainly. But it means pull yourself together. Don't fall apart. And so basically fortify yourself, strengthen yourself, because the future is going to be difficult. You're going to come up against all sorts of difficulties. And so get your act together so you're ready for the future. Sort yourself out would be another way of saying it. Sort yourself out, pull yourself together. So that you're ready for the future. Fortify yourself. Okay, if you only just manage to get by, it means you only just manage to survive. And don't forget scrape by as well, because that means the same thing. If you say, I didn't have much money when I was a student and I only just managed to get by, you can say, I only just managed to scrape by, same thing. It means you just managed to survive on the little amount of money that you had. Perhaps you lived by eking things out. There's another good phrasal verb, to eke out something. I know I certainly did, and it means, I'm not sure I've spelt that one right, eke out. I'll have to check on my computer in a second. But when you try to drag out or draw out how long something lasts, you eke it out. You could eke out the tomato ketchup by putting it upside down and making sure all the tomato ketchup goes to the bottom, and that means that you use all of the sauce and not just maybe 90% of the sauce. So you're eking something out by making sure it lasts as long as possible. You're drawing out your supplies of that particular product. Okay, you can also say get by on or scrape by on, meaning live on this one's transitive, this one's intransitive. I just gave you two examples where you only just got by at university. It's intransitive, no object. This one has an object. You can say, when I was at university, I got by on beans and eggs and chips, probably be quite true for myself, but I scraped by on, you can also say, meaning I lived on that substance, that product, that piece of food or whatever, and that was what helped me survive. But please remember all these other related phrasal verbs: live on, live off, prey on, survive on, feed on, even feed off. And it's hard for me to give you a difference between feed off and feed on, and between live on and live off. To me, they sound really, really similar, even though they have the opposite prepositions there. So you can live off your friend's generosities, and of course that's not good. That means that you are surviving, you're getting by simply thanks to your friend's generosity. So I don't think that's very good. You should be living off your own means when you're already an adult. And you could say you live on your friend's generosity. So I don't see much difference between those two, and the same with feed off and feed on. They're both very common and very often used. Okay, if you say you get off work at 6 or you knock off work at 6, it means that you finish work at 6. So nice easy one, meaning finish work. If something gets you down, it depresses you. And you should remember that something can bring you down, someone can run you down, someone can insult you and put you down. All of those are quite similar, although put someone down is insult, bring someone down is depress someone, and run someone down is when somebody depresses you or upsets you by lots of insults, or maybe just giving you loads of work. Okay, news gets around, and it means news spreads, that's all. The word has got around that you have a new girlfriend, yeah? So that means rumours have spread, rumours have got around that you've got a new girlfriend. If somebody tells you to get off their back, it means they tell you to leave alone, leave me alone, stop annoying me, stop nagging me with demands, stop going on at me about something. So remember, go on at someone about something. That's not on the board today, but it's another very good phrasal verb. If somebody says, let's get back to basics, it means let's get back to the fundamental things, just as you would expect. The basics are the fundamentals, yeah? But there are two other good idioms here: get down to the brass tacks and get down to the nitty-gritty. They both mean let's start again, right from the beginning, and with the fundamentals, with the basics. So it's very similar to let's get back to basics. But when you're in a meeting and you say, let's get down to the nitty-gritty, how much is this going to cost? You can see that it means let's get down to the most fundamental, essential question. How much is the project going to cost? So let's get down to the nitty-gritty, or let's get down to the brass tacks. Both very common. Now, if you get a project off the ground, it means you get the project started. You get enough momentum to actually lift it off the ground. Think about a plane taking off. It needs enough momentum. It needs to pass a certain speed before it will take off. And it's only when it has that momentum that it gets off the ground. And the same with a project. It's only when people have put in enough effort and put in enough money maybe as well, and enough time and effort, that the project gets off the ground and it gets started. Now, put across or get across an idea just means convey an idea. So you might say, I went to the meeting and I found it very hard to put my ideas across. I hope I'm managing to get my ideas across about these phrasal verbs at the moment. Okay, if you get away with a crime, it means that you're not punished, or you're very leniently punished. So nobody punishes you severely. So, I mean, it's a good thing if you've committed a crime or you've done something wrong. Just checking the time there, sorry. Okay, if you have to get to the bottom of something, it means you need to investigate something and find out exactly how it works. If you're a detective, you need to get to the bottom of the murder, get to the bottom of the crime and find the murderer. And when you found the murderer, you've got to the bottom of it. Yeah, you've got to the bottom of it and you found out exactly what happened. Put my coffee down. But if you can use it in a few other ways, meaning find out exactly the secret, or the hidden secret in something. I suppose scientists, when they're doing research, they're trying to get to the bottom of how things work. Okay, if you get in on the act, you try to get involved in something which is going on, but which some people are perhaps making a lot of money out of, or something like that, but you're not, and you'd like to become involved. So you try to get in on the act. So years ago I saw that people were making videos on YouTube, making lessons, and I decided to get in on the act. I could use it like that, yeah, meaning to become involved in it and start making videos myself. Now, get something out of something else means to exploit something and get some advantage from it, get some benefit. So I might say, what did you get out of your university course? Yeah, maybe you've just done a new training, an online training course for your job. I don't know, learning how to do something, and I might say to you, what did you get out of it? And you might say, oh, I didn't get much out of it, or I got lots out of that course. I learned how to do this, how to do that. I'm now a much more qualified worker. Okay, go phrasal verbs. Let's pick up pace because this is taking too long. If something goes down, it stops working. But it's only for computers, really. It's not for lights. Lights go out or they go off. But I think we usually say they go out when we don't know why they went out. If it just happens all of a sudden, a power cut, a blackout, I think we usually say, oh, the lights went out, what happened? If you go back over something, you re-examine it, you want to do it again, one more time, perhaps to brush up on it. So I might say, let's go back over take phrasal verbs, meaning let's re-examine take phrasal verbs, let's go through them one more time, just to make sure that we can understand all of them. So you're brushing up on something very often when you're going back over it, when you're re-examining it. If something goes off well, then it comes off well. You pull it off well. And so go off as planned. You might say the performance went off as planned. It means it went successfully. And you can say it came off as planned. Or you can say the director pulled it off marvellously. He pulled off a marvelous job. So pull off, come off and go off all mean happen as planned or happen well. A little bit like go down, the performance went down well. It went off as planned. Both of those are possible. Okay, if something goes for a certain price, you can say my TV went for £500. It means it was sold at that price. Now, it doesn't mean set me back, because that means it cost you. It set me back £100. But maybe you put it up for sale on eBay, and somebody buys it, and they bid for it, they make bids for it, and in the end it went for £90. It went for £100. But please remember that go for someone also means attack. It means run at someone, come at someone, maybe even hit out at someone, lash out at someone. There are many there, and we've done lots of them before in other lessons. Now, if you go over something, you go through it, you work through it, you examine it, a little bit like go back over, but that means re-examine one more time. If you go after someone, you chase them, you run after someone. If you go through something, sometimes it can just mean like go through, take phrasal verbs, and that's not that unpleasant. It just means examine them, go through them, go over them. But sometimes go through can mean that it has an unpleasant meaning. So if somebody goes through a divorce, it's unpleasant, it's not nice. Or if somebody goes, you might say, you don't know what, maybe your friend's husband has gone to prison, he's been in there for a few months now, you might say you don't know what she's going through, meaning you don't know how she's suffering. So it could mean just go through like go over, but it could mean suffer, experience something unpleasant. Now, going by the evidence, the detectives decided not to convict the suspect, yeah, or not to arrest the suspect. So it means according to the evidence. And you might say something like this, going by what my friend says, it will rain tomorrow. And that means according to what my friend says, it's going to rain tomorrow. So very, very common, that going by. Now, go around doing something. This is used for when you're criticising someone's actions, so it's negative. And for example, you might say, oh, I don't like my neighbour. He's always going around saying things about me. He's always going around telling everyone that I'm an idiot. Yeah, something like that. So it's whenever you're criticising someone's bad behaviour, you use this go around and gerund form. You might say the teenagers went around vandalising things in the streets. Well, it's clear that's bad behaviour. Okay, if a politician goes over to the other side, it means that they literally betray their own side and join the other party. And this is because in the Houses of Parliament you have one group of idiots sitting over here, one group of idiots sitting over here, and when they go over to the other side, they join the other party. And it's because one party sits on one side and one party sits on the other. So one of the reds goes over to the blues, or one of the blues goes over to the reds, they go over to the other side. And you could use this in any situation where you're on one team and you go over to the other team. If you go into details, you elaborate on something. You start to talk about all the different intricacies behind the idea. So you can go into details as well. If you talk about a tie and you say it goes with your eyes, it means it matches your eyes, it suits you. But if you say that your friend's new sofa goes with the wallpaper, it means it matches the wallpaper. So it means suit or match to go with. Go along with what someone says means agree or support their thoughts or ideas just for argument's sake. It may not be for argument's sake, but it often is for argument's sake. So I might say, let's go along with what my friend suggested for a few minutes and see where his idea leads us. Yeah, so when you go along with someone, you just agree to support their ideas for a little while. And it's very similar to play along with, but play along with is very often used to humour someone. When somebody maybe when somebody starts lying to you, you decide to play along with them because you don't want to call them out on their lies. Okay, if you go on at someone about something, it means you're nagging or keeping on at someone about something, or remember there are loads here. Rabbit on at someone about something, ramble on at someone about something, bang on at someone about something. There are loads of this form of phrasal verbs, and it means nag most of the time. Nag or complain, but nag especially. If the meeting went on for 30 minutes, it lasted 30 minutes. Nice easy one. And if you can't go without your mobile phone, it means you can't live without your mobile phone or do without your mobile phone. So exactly the same as those two other phrasal verbs. Ooh, we're going further and further. 59, keep in with. If you keep in with someone, it means you do your best to maintain a good relationship with them, usually because you can see some kind of advantage. So you might say, I've just met a wonderful new girl and I'm in love with her, and so I want to keep in with her parents because one day I might want to marry her and I might want to ask their permission. So it's always good to keep in with your parents-in-law. If you keep up with the news, it means you keep up to date with the news. You make sure you're constantly in the loop, yeah, and you're listening to the news and finding out any new things that are happening. It can also mean, though, to stay at the same level as. So if one student can't keep up with the other students, it means he's lagging behind, he's falling behind. Maybe he missed school for a couple of weeks and he can't keep up with the other students. If I say keep it up when I'm watching my son play football, I mean keep the effort up, keep going, you're doing well, keep it up, keep struggling, keep playing as hard as you can so that you can win. If you keep at something, you persist in doing it. So again, this is very often used for when you're encouraging someone, and you might say, keep at your English and you will succeed. All that you'll achieve all your goals. You will manage to become fluent and to impress all your friends and speak without mistakes and all the rest of it. Now, if the teachers keep a student in, that means he's in detention. He's done something wrong. He's gone around annoying the teacher or gone around annoying the other pupils, and he has to be kept in as a punishment. He didn't get away with it, he was kept in. So if somebody tells you to keep a secret to yourself, they mean don't blurt it out. And very often we just say, keep this to yourself, but I'm going to be promoted or something like that. And I mean, don't let the cat out the bag. Don't let this secret out. Don't blurt it out, but I'm going to get promoted. If you keep out of something, you stay out of it. You want to stay uninvolved. Keep or stay out of something. Remain uninvolved. So maybe your friends are having a fight and you decide to keep out of it because you like both of them. If you keep ahead, you stay in front of someone. If you keep a secret from someone, then you don't tell them the secret. Maybe you have some secret information and you keep it from someone. Maybe you know that your friend's wife is having an affair, but you keep this information from him for one reason or another. If you keep someone up, you keep them awake late at night. So my wife's been working very hard recently and she's on the computer all the time and it keeps me up. It's quite a lot of light in the room, but it's not the end of the world. Usually I do fall asleep in the end. I doze off. If you keep something up, this is like keep it up. But you could keep prices up as well, something like that, and it means keep prices high. If somebody tells you to keep off the grass, it means stay off the grass, but you might say I need to keep off the fatty foods at the moment, and it means I need to give up or cut down on fatty foods. If you keep the volume down, you keep the noise down, keep it down, it means be quiet, very often used with noise. If you keep to your word, you stick to your word, you stick to your promises. If you talk about the upkeep of a building, you're talking about the maintenance of a building, and so sometimes the upkeep of a building can be very expensive. If you keep yourself abreast of the news, if you keep yourself abreast of new developments, it means you keep yourself informed, you keep up with whatever news is happening, whatever is going on. So keep yourself abreast of is very often used for when you keep up to date with the news. And if you keep it together, it's like keep it together, pull yourself together, get your act together. A lot of other phrasal verbs meaning remain composed, keep your emotional strength, stay in charge of your emotions like an adult should, and keep yourself together. Okay, if something takes you aback, it shocks you, it surprises you in a really big way. And if you say, I was taken aback, it means literally this. And can you see how I'm taken aback when I do that? And that's the idea. If it takes you aback, it actually makes you step back. It's so shocking. If a killer takes someone out, he kills them. Okay, simple as that. But you can take the rubbish out. I have to on Tuesdays usually. I have to take the rubbish out. And you can take your wife out for a lovely meal. So there's a few different ones there with take someone out. But it can mean kill. If a plane takes off, it goes like that. If you take off your clothes, it's the opposite of put on. Done that one. If you take off somebody, you could be doing an impression of them. And so a lot of comedians take off politicians and they take off other famous singers, movie stars. They do an impression of them, the way they talk and the way they act, their gestures. And there is another one because I've put 4, take off. Can't remember the other one for the moment, but there is another one. There's probably another 10. If something takes up a lot of time, then it fills your timetable. You don't have much free time. But if something takes up a lot of space, then it fills the space in your room. So my chairs in here take up a lot of space. Perhaps I should take a few out. Okay, the intake is the number of new people doing an activity or joining a school or joining a company or something like that. It can also mean the consumption of nutrients. So you can talk about the intake of sugar by the body or the intake of protein by the body. The uptake is when people make use of something available. And so you might, by the way, we often say to be slow or fast on the uptake, and this is an expression, an idiom, meaning to be quick to understand if you're fast on the uptake, or slow to understand if you're slow on the uptake. So I hope that all of you guys are fast on the uptake. And if I make a load of phrasal verb lessons but nobody watches them, I could say that the uptake on these recent videos has been very low. But if everybody's watching them, I can say the uptake has been very high. Okay, if you take something up with the manager, you're going to make a complaint. Yeah, somebody's really annoyed you and you decide to make a fuss and you decide to take it up with the manager so that you can go on at him about the terrible service. Yeah, something like that. Okay, remember that take is the opposite of put in most phrasal verb situations. You can take something down from the wall. I could take this whole whiteboard down from the wall and I could put it up on the wall. But I can also take off my jumper and I can put on my jumper. And I could also take apart my IKEA furniture, or I could put together my IKEA furniture. So look at that take and put opposites. It's well worth remembering. If you take after your father, you're similar to your father. Maybe, usually this is used in personality, but it might be used with physical aspects like eyes or nose. If you say, don't take me for an idiot, it means don't assume I'm an idiot, or don't think of me as an idiot. Even if I come across as an idiot, don't take me for an idiot. And if you take someone up on an offer, it means you accept the offer. Somebody offers you a job and you take them up on it because it's a great opportunity. So it's the opposite of turn down, to take someone up on an offer, because to turn down an offer is to refuse the offer. Okay, let me quickly check eke out, because it'll only take me 1 second. The computer's right here. I just want to check the spelling. Eke out. And I'm pleased to say that I have got it completely wrong. It is, as I suspected, spelt poorly. It is actually EKE for eke out. Look at that silly spelling. It looks like it's perhaps an old Saxon word or something like that. It doesn't look like a Latin word to me, but who knows? You'll have to check it out in the dictionary. But this is when you draw out or drag out how long a particular product lasts. Okay, that's all for today. I hope that's useful for you. I hope the quality is a little bit better than usual. I decided not to make a live video because usually the quality is better. I know that the words are very small on the board. I'm sorry about that. There are lots of words on the board. But if you would like to find more exercises on these phrasal verbs, please try my Mindhunter Phrasal Verb book. You can buy it on my website, or try the Mindhunter Phrasal Verbs, or try the 70 other lessons that are in this playlist. Thanks everybody for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon.